You guys are tuned in to Create Force here with Kai Billings and Mike Sarge. Today we have a special guest. Our guest is an active duty member and is the host of an award-winning podcast, the Herofront podcast. The podcast focuses on mental health, resiliency, and focuses on not just you as a leader, but you as a hero, using your story to positively impact your sections. Everyone, I want to introduce Joshua White. What's going on, boss?
What's up, fam? How we doing?
We good. We chilling. Okay. Like we good. Honestly, both thank you for taking the time to chop it up with us. Both me and Kai are excited to have you. If I remember correctly, actually, Kai is the one who put me onto your content. If I remember right, Kai. He sent me a link. We checked it out. We're like, yo, we definitely got to have this guy on here. So for the people that don't know who you are, can you just give us a quick rundown of who you are and what motivated you to start the podcast?
Yeah. So just to recap, I'm from Maryland. I'm actually from Maryland. Is that where y'all are at?
That's where I'm at currently. Kai's in Florida.
Okay. I'm in Florida, yeah.
Okay. I'm in Florida now, but I'm from Waldorf, Maryland. So I'm fourth generation Air Force. You know, my cousins, my great-grandfathers, my parents met in Turkey. They were raised in Turkey because both my grandparents were in the Air Force. So, you know, I think I was destined to join, but there's also a lot of pressure, you know, right? Just seeing what my past family members have pulled off and accomplished. But that's where I'm from. I was raised in a severely divorced type of family. So I had everything I needed. I had food, clothes, video games, you know, I was having fun. But at the same time, you know, I can look back and see a lot of trauma that me and my sisters took on from the multiple divorces, the division of the family, kind of consumed them, kind of became their identity for a while. And so I always wanted to leave my hometown. You know, there's really nothing that I enjoyed about it at that point in my life. You know, I was kind of ready to move out my house. I wanted to, you know, my dad's my biggest mentor. He was a single dad with me for a while. My mom, I'm in a great place with her now, but out the gate, she had some mental health issues. And so I wasn't actually raised by my mom, my biological mom. I was raised by my dad while he was still serving in the Air Force. So he's always been like my hero, you know, in my eyes, my best friend, and my role model. And, you know, he was enlisted, he became an officer, and he did 26 years and then 10 years as a civilian. And so I wanted to follow his footsteps. I'm definitely not as talented as him, though, and I ran into some obstacles, but you know, we'll hear about that later. So I've been in 19 years now. I went from Guam to Okinawa, Japan, so I had some really fun assignments. I've been to Whiteman, Missouri twice, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. I've had career fields of aerospace ground equipment, retrained into public health, and military funeral honors. I ran a base honor guard at Whiteman Air Force Base, which was the best job I ever had and changed my entire life. And so, yeah, 3 career fields, multiple bases. I did a humanitarian in the Dominican Republic where I got to help the locals, you know, the people that you don't see at the resorts, right? The people who are in poverty-stricken, really, really rough parts of the island. I was able to, you know, be a medic and help those folks. I also had a recent deployment to Israel right before that war kicked off. I was an embedded medic in the IDF, kind of going through, you know, alliances with them, like what it would look like to support them. So honestly, I've been really lucky with the opportunities that I've had. I've had really hard times, most of them self-inflicted. But man, I've been blessed to be where I'm at now. And then, as you guys know me from, is the Herofront podcast. That's where a lot of people know me from. And I started that 3 years ago. When I got here to Eglin Air Force Base, I decided, full send it. This is the time. I'm doing it. Kicked it off 3 years ago. Very rough start, a lot of pushback. But I hung in there. I stuck with it. I didn't quit. Flash forward to now, and I'm talking to the Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force. I'm talking to the general of my base. And I still talk to the airmen. You know what I mean? I don't care. Everyone's got a story. I only bring up those high-ranking folks to show, you know, how accepted it's become, how far that part of it's come. That's been huge, and I'm very blessed to say that it's come a long way. I have a wife of over 10 years. She's from Missouri. I met her when I was at Whiteman. And I have 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old daughter named Summer and a 4-year-old son named Phoenix. And so just living my best life out here at Eglin Air Force Base, potentially my last base, as I believe I can hit the button this February.
Wow.
Wow.
Dude, that's first of all, you are absolutely right when you say like you're definitely like fortunate and blessed, like just all those opportunities that you mentioned, that breadth of different experiences and opportunities, I think is super, super cool. And something like when you talk about your platform, something I really love and appreciate about like your podcast is that like not only have you created a stage where you're talking to individuals, you're talking to leaders, you're talking to people about their life story and their truth, but you're also sharing yours. And that's something that me and Kai have always talked about in regards to leadership and what that looks like. And, you know, can you speak to like the importance of leaders showing a little bit of vulnerability, just opening up to the people that they're in charge of, and why you believe that's important?
Yeah, man. I'm going to say we have ever since I joined, we've been downsizing, right? And we have the smallest Air Force in history at this point, and it's still getting smaller, and we're still, you know, leveraging our people more and more. They're more talented as they come in. They're more driven. But, you know, what I've seen is we have to take a different approach to a much smaller team, right? When I first joined and we had an abundance of people didn't know who I was. Like, I didn't know my leaders. There's so many people that, like, didn't matter. And if I wanted to do something, I had to go find it. Like, hey, the community college of the Air Force, we're here. Come find us. Like, it was all about you had to go find them. And I attribute that because there's so many people. Flash forward to now, and the tables have turned. Everyone's fighting for the attention now, right? I'm not coming to you now. Like, you got to find me. Like, I got to be scrolling, and your content has to find me. Now you got job fairs everywhere. Now it's completely reversed. And I think the leadership needs to change as well, right? And part of that is trust. I know it's one of those like corny things I always heard, you know, every relationship needs a foundation of trust. Like, we've all heard that, we all get it, but holy cow, man, like that is so true. And it's trust, like I need to trust that you have my best interest in mind and at heart. Right? Yeah. If we have that bond, there's really nothing we can't accomplish. But if there's a disconnect there, maybe you have different motives. You know, you run into that toxic leader, you know, button heads, and that trust isn't there, your team is going to be insanely ineffective.
Gosh, you kicked this thing off 3 years ago, and you initially got pushback, and you've hit a little bit of the toxic leadership. And sometimes your boss wants you to do what they want, and doesn't actually provide you the support that you need.
Right.
So twofold. First, you said like this is probably your last gig. I'm going to ask why. And then second, to all those young cats out there who want to make a difference, but their boss isn't really letting them make a difference, what recommendations do you have for them?
Yeah, man. So I'll tell you why I ran into the issue. I think that'll help explain it, because part of it's my fault. Like, I got to take responsibility for where I screwed up and made things worse too, right? So the most success I ever had in my life was when I was coming off of my Honor Guard tour. COVID just happened. I was running COVID ops for 3 months, and then I was on my way to Eglin. You know, I was a 12 Outstanding Airman of the Year. I never won awards, and then suddenly I'm like winning all of them, and it was like, holy cow. And you know, as someone who was like an underdog and you know, had to really show what I was capable of, even to myself, that was a kind of intoxicating, you know, new headspace that I had entered. I've never felt like that. And here's where I messed up. Before I even got here to Eglin, I was trying to convey, you know, my success before I even got here. Does that make sense? Like, I was trying to secure a positive opinion on me before I even got there. And that did not work.
No.
For some people it works because they're online and that's how they communicate. You know, for some people it works. But I had a peer who was another senior NCO who it rubbed that person extremely wrong. That person then talked to the the officer that ran, the lieutenant colonel who ran it, he thought it was really bad too. So as I created this problem for myself, right? I walked into an environment where the two people who I needed on my side the most were like, we're going to knock you down a peg, right? So it was kind of self-inflicted. Like, it wasn't all them. It was me too, trying to change their mind about me before I got there. It was an insecurity of mine that got the best of me. I was really just nervous about going back to my career field as a master sergeant. I was terrified of that. And instead of just doing it, you know, I panicked and started trying to do things before I even got there. And so when I started the social media, it was met with basically went up to my squadron commander that didn't like it. So I'm here to tell you, do not mess with commanders, bro. If you can avoid that, please avoid that, because it's just a battle that you're probably not going to win. You're arguing with the people who make the rules. Like, I wish I could have avoided that. But unfortunately, I found myself in a position, again, probably self-inflicted, right? Where I had to, because I had some talks with them. They didn't like what I was doing online. And I basically had to decide, am I going to listen to them, stop what I'm doing, which I knew was right in my heart. I knew the talks were right. I knew the message was positive. I didn't think I should stop. So am I going to listen to that, or am I going to press and just take on whatever flack I get? I said, you know what, I'm just going to full send it. I'm going to press, because I know in my heart this is the right thing to do. If I got to take a few hits for that, so be it. So the next 2 EPRs I had were marked down. And as a senior NCO, that's a wrap. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a wrap. So I just want to tell you the background first. I want to tell you, you know, the origin, how difficult it was to truly get that off the ground. Now, why am I glad I hung in there? Because it's given me a purpose and a fulfillment that I've never felt in my entire life. And more importantly, I have now paved the path for others behind me, right? I've normalized these positive talks to the point where the next person is going to have a lot less flack to get something off the ground that they want to accomplish. And so to answer your question, why I want to retire, I struggled with purpose for a long time. Like, I'm talking 10 years. I call it a decade under the influence. I was drinking to get by. I was maintenance. I was on 12s. I was on nights. I don't know who my boss was, who the commander. I was so disconnected. I was basically a civilian. I had no idea, like, where to turn for help. I was just grinding on the flight line. You know, I was just out there driving the bobtail with a lot of time, you know, seeing my friends go to college. And I swear to God, every day I just hated myself more and more when I looked in the mirror, because I just didn't know where to start to, like, you know, do better. I just didn't even know where to start. And I started drinking to really get by mentally, to the point where I almost lost my life. I got to a point where I didn't want to live anymore, and that could have a huge effect on your immune system, right? So I didn't want to live anymore, and I was just going through the motions and hungover every day, absolutely miserable. And I got myocarditis. So I got the flu mist. It was a type of flu shot, except you snort it. It was really weird, but it was a live virus. And as soon as I did that, my heart inflamed. My body was attacking my own heart, and I had to live in a hospital in Kansas City for 2 weeks. And they said, yeah, you should probably get some family out here. Like, there's nothing we can do but give you painkillers and make you comfortable. That's it. And just hope for the best. Like, that's the point I got to. That wasn't even my rock bottom. Like, I still had a lot of growing to do, because when I got back to my normal life, guess what? I'm still Josh White. I'm still got the same problems. I still didn't have the tools. So you could imagine how upset I was when that like rock bottom in the hospital moment did not turn me around. When I finally got out of my comfort zone, it was for the commander's call, which led to me being an undershirt, which led to me being the med group commander's exec for a year, which led me to getting picked as the honor guard program manager, which grew me like crazy. I mean, being there for people in their darkest hour, having 30 airmen at a time from across. I mean, that was a wild experience, very challenging, but it changed my life forever. And it gave me a sense of purpose. It's actually why I started Herofront, was that experience. It's actually named after Honor Guard. The heroes at the front of every ceremony and parade is, and this is similar to the Hap Arnold logo on their hats. So it's actually named after Honor Guard because it gave me a sense of purpose that I'd never felt before. Like I was onto something. Like, man, I finally found that unique special touch. And I had the trifecta. I had a boss. His name was Major Cunningham, who believed in me, who gave me the autonomy to be creative and to do things my way. He trusted in me enough to do that, empowered me. I had a peer named Sergeant Rutherford who he's a genius. He's a reservist, but he's the smartest guy I've ever met. And he's intimidating. Matter of fact, I was told not to hire him because he's too intimidating. He's very by the book, and I thought, man, if this is going to make Honor Guard better, I'm going to be extremely selfish and insecure if I don't hire him and just figure this out. So I hired him. He ended up being one of my best friends. He was intimidating, but ultimately he was the expert, man. On so I put him in charge of training. And then I had great airmen. You know, I went through 7 active duty funerals. Those were very, very emotionally challenging. And I had airmen that I really bonded with. I started highlighting their stories. I started learning that it doesn't take much to make someone feel special. Like, we shouldn't wait for a quarterly or annual award. That's so few and far between. You can spend a little bit of time either telling them or posting about them, which is what I did. I made a Facebook page, and their parents would share it, their siblings would share it, and the sense of pride that they had, you know, sometimes some of them never had that in their entire career up to that point. They had not had one person thank them, not one. And it took nothing from me to bring that joy, right? Like, just a little bit of time. And that's a powerful lesson I learned for the podcast. Like, a little bit of time and showing someone some love can go so. I mean, I just highlighted Master Sergeant Carolyn Phillips. You should go to Herofront on Facebook and look at my last video. She kicks ass and gets zero credit for it, and it was driving me insane. I hate that this person has done so much and got treated so poorly. You know, if someone's coming at you, especially that's above you, and kind of trying to make you stop doing something that you love, you know, that could be incredibly intimidating. I think the worst thing you could do is bottle that up and not tell anybody, right? I'm telling you that from experience. I tried to handle it on my own, and that just doesn't work. To confide in a peer and to verbally express this tough situation you found yourself in, that in itself will take a load off your shoulders. And when you find that peer, maybe it's a supervisor, a first shirt, maybe it's the squadron commander, maybe that's the next person that you trust in your chain. Own the situation, talk about it. Don't try to hide from it, because you can't hide from it, right? You just can't. You have to face it. At some point, you're going to have to face it. And so owning that truth, expressing it to someone verbally is incredibly empowering. And you can find out things like, am I wrong? Did I do something wrong? Like, you need to be open to that feedback. Can I do something better? How can I handle this situation? You know, so my advice would be, find the power to say it out loud to someone you trust and listen to their feedback. But definitely don't isolate and try to hide from it or avoid it or do it on your own. So that would be the advice that I'd have.
I wanted to ask you, like, speaking of fear, because you mentioned like you're transitioning, you're heading into retirement. What is something, like, even now you feel like you're going to miss about being a part of the military?
Shoot, man. I mean, I think everyone misses and reflects on those really solid teams you had. I mean, we all had special military moments. Like, for instance, I think a really special moment for me was when I was in the Dominican Republic, because that was the first time I acted as a true medic. That's the first time I was helping people who needed it, tremendously needed it, where we came together as a hospital, and set it up at like an abandoned school, and we were on our own, man. Like, we had to make that work. It was an incredible experience. There's just certain experiences that can only happen in the military, like that humanitarian, like my time in Israel, where I get to work directly with the IDF and like get a glimpse into their life. So I would say I would miss the unique opportunities we get, the certain moments of camaraderie that I felt, the purpose that I felt, and the different cultures that I was able to learn from in Guam, Japan, Alaska, Dominican Republic, Israel. Like, seeing the world from their lens, to me, was invaluable. You'll never forget that. Your empathy will be tremendous when you're able to see the world through their eyes.
If people want to follow you, check out your content, whether it's your podcast or other things that you're working on, where can they find you?
My very expensive website, herofrontpodcast.com. Everything that you want to know is on there. Articles, links, everything. herofrontpodcast.com. But can I ask y'all a quick question while I have you?
Yeah.
Go for
I would like
it.
to just hear, why you're so passionate about what you do. Each one of you, like, why are you putting so much effort into Create Force? And like, you clearly love it. And Sarge, I see you posting stuff all the time. Like, you're thinking about this stuff a lot. You know what I mean? Which is great. And I just would love to hear like where that comes from for you guys.
Oh, no, thanks for asking that, man. I'd say for me, I've got twofold, two different things that drive me to do this. For one, I'm going to call it the elephant in the room. So I immigrated from Panama and moved to the States when I was about 3 years old. And joining the Air Force and commissioning was very much a sporadic, like, senior year in high school decision. And being where I am at in an operations career field, I will call it out that there are very few leaders that look like me or operate like me or have similar backgrounds. Very common to find in logistics or sometimes medical or maintenance. But in terms of pilots and intel and operators, we are struggling in diversity. And so from there, I want to give people a voice who sometimes don't see people on the stage that look like them and show that it can be done. You have to work your ass off and sometimes work a lot harder than your peers. But that's a start. And then additionally, in 2014, 2015, I was inpatient for suicidal ideations. I had a lot of bottled up trauma, a lot of things that I didn't process. That after being inpatient, I thought I was good and continued therapy and medication. And fast forward about 6 or 7 years, and I had a good buddy of mine, someone that I had fajita night with, my now wife and his girlfriend, commit suicide in my flying squadron. And it kind of re-triggered a lot.
Whoa.
Showing me that even those who are at the top, this guy was an instructor pilot in 2 airframes. He was the guy. He was selected for Air Force Weapons School, which for those that don't know is the highest accolade that you can be selected as an aviator. And the day that we're going out getting flu, like COVID shots and about to go to red flag, we're called in on a Sunday before a rotator on a Monday, Tuesday, that we lost them.
Wow. That's hard, man. That's painful when that happens, especially with someone you look up to and you don't see it coming. It's just like, man, if you're in a bad place and you see that with someone you respect, man, that affects everybody. You know what I mean? That's tough, man. Thank you for sharing. I had no idea that.
No, we were balling, man. I still have one of his like Christmas cards in my files. I bought the Air Force book that came out a couple years back because they actually have him in that book capturing like Bomber Task Force in the Air Force, and he was an incredible dude. And it made me realize that if someone like that, who looks like everybody else, can feel isolated, and who is at the pinnacle of what the Air Force deems of success is feeling isolated, like that means that more often than not, we are striving for connection and don't feel connected.
For me, people having a voice is everything to me. You know what I mean? And so like sometimes we're all put in positions where we feel like we have to compromise. And so a big part of not just what me and Kai do, or, you know, a big part of what we do is we want people to feel that confidence and belief that like, hey, there are people that are still fighting for what's right. There are people that are still fighting for you to be your true self and to be creative and also to be able to take accountability, because that takes courage too, right? You know, something I like to say is it takes courage to be able to speak up when something's wrong, but it also takes courage to know when it's not your time to speak and you need to hand the mic to somebody else. Like both takes courage. So like that's one part of it. And the other part that has me so motivated to do this work is I believe that everyone is a creative. And I know some people think that that's crazy because when you hear it, you're like, I'm not creative. Are you serious? I'm the last creative person that you can think of. But I believe that there are three types of creatives. There are people that create, there are people that create products and things that you can go out and buy, like food and shoes, music artists, stuff like that. Number two, there's the type of creatives that create experiences. So think of like the usher at a church that makes you just feel welcome. Think about the person when you go to a concert or a sporting event and you see security and it just gives you that sense of that security, right? The person that runs the lights and the sound makes you like allows you to just immerse yourself in the concert. So there are people that create experiences, and then lastly there are people that create stages, that create opportunities for others. Ones that create the stage, build up a platform, and then walk off and say, hey, here's the mic. I don't need the mic. Like, what do you need to say? Who do we need to speak for? Do we need to speak to the empowerment of women? Do we need to speak to the empowerment of those in the LGBT community? Like, who do we need to vouch for and bring support to? So, you know, the reason that both me and Kai are so passionate about this is because, one, we love people. We care about people. But we all understand that we all have room to grow. All of us. Like, and so if I can listen to a podcast or listen to someone like you, Josh, or other great influencers share stories, man, you're helping me grow. And so that's why it's important to us, man. We just want to be able to create a culture where people feel safe to be themselves. Like, that's it.
Man, that's beautiful. That's amazing, y'all. I love y'all. I'm just very happy that, like, although I might be retiring, you know, in the next year, that there's folks like you who are at the helm. You know what I mean? Just what you embrace, your philosophy, what you've been through, but you're still here, is incredible. I mean, y'all are exactly, you know, the type of leaders that I would want if I was an airman. Like, no joke. You're exactly the type that I would hope that I'm lucky enough to get, and that's y'all. So I want to give y'all a shout out too. I know this was my episode, but I do want to just take a minute to just say what y'all are doing is incredible. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, but the benefit is tremendous, and you recognize that, right? And so I appreciate that about you guys, and I'm excited to see where y'all go.